Hey, Alex.
Hello. Thanks for getting here. I'm just sending a message to, oh my gosh, sending a message to all of our presenters to make sure they can join. Are other folks seeing that Zoom is down for your organizations? I did a quick Google and it looks like it's a kind of a widespread thing. I did get a notification that someone joined my Zoom meeting, which is kind of surprising. Um, but yeah, you might want to, I know I'm about to send an email to some staff that have a Zoom, a public meeting today over Zoom to figure out an alternative.
Yeah, it'll make for a fun budget meeting tonight.
Oh no. Just because of the change in venue, I'm going to give us a little extra time to get to allow people to join today. I know we were going to have some visitors as well, so some people that aren't on RRC necessarily. Um, so we'll give those people some time. All right, and for those who are just joining, there is a Zoom outage currently. So if you want to take this time to email your staff, coordinate anything you need to. I know we have a couple public meetings for tonight that we're gonna have to figure out a solution for. Um, we're gonna give people just a little extra time to join today before we get started. All right. I still see some people joining, but let's go ahead and get started. And I'll just ask everyone to mute themselves when they're not speaking to make sure we don't have any echoing or feedback. And I want to make sure we have our presenters here. So I think I see Nicole. Not sure if Sylvia is here. Sylvia, if you're here, if you could chime in. I see Scott. Do I see John Paul on the call? I think I do. And Nicole Madigan. So looks like we're still waiting for Sylvia, and we can rearrange the agenda slightly if we are still missing her. But we can go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone. I know that we have a mix of people on here today. This is OAMR Records and Regulations Committee meeting. We're really excited to have our focus today relate to electronic records management systems and folder structures and tours and all of that. So really thankful to the members that we're going to have today presenting and showing us around. That's going to be the bulk of our meeting today. And towards the end, if we have a little bit of time, we'll talk a little bit about any legislative updates that folks have. We may chat about our conference session in the fall quickly. And then before we get into our sort of panel today, we do have Kris Stenson here from Secretary of State. He wanted to just take some time at the top of our agenda to give an update to our members. So Kris, thanks for being here and go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for letting me pop in at the last minute. This was a last minute request as my team and I met this morning and worked through some more things and then kind of decided that we're pretty much ready to rock. So, update on the city general schedule. Those of you who have been part of this body for a while, you remember we started talking about this back in 22. And it has been a long process. I appreciate all of your patience. Administrative rule updates are no small feat in the first place, and especially not when you are touching hundreds of specific series within a rules, and doing reconciliation across 3 different schedules at the same time. So, long story short, those of you that pay attention that get our notifications may have seen the one I sent out that the state agency general schedule was officially put in the Oregon Bulletin, noticed for change as of April 1st. For those of you not intimately familiar with the administrative rule process, and for that you should be grateful. It's basically there's a series of deadlines that play, and we have a public hearing on that on the 22nd. And then the deadline for public comment is May 20th, after which I will be filing to make it permanent. And that will be the first big step. Now, the city schedule is the next in line. And we met this morning and basically reconciled the last of our back and forths with ourselves and others to the point where we are now officially formatting and drafting for filing. My goal, and I've learned not to promise, but my goal is to have it filed for the May bulletin deadline. At which point you would all get a lot of noise, and I'll make sure to share it amongst this body and others at OAMR at general. Basically, all of the revisions will be filed in the Oregon Bulletin. It will be an ugly mass of redlining. I can tell you that right now. Reading the published changes will be challenging because just about everything has moved, changed, altered, etc. It will be renumbered. Do not be alarmed by that. But the reality is, because of the necessity of how we do it, we're going to be shifting all of the section numbers up 100 basically, so we didn't have to do a whole bunch of extra hop, skips, and jumps. Fortunately, there's a lot of room left before we hit 1,000. So anyways, you will find pretty extensive changes, including most notably the reinsertion of descriptions into the schedule. So this is not meant to be a full discussion of that. I just wanted to let you know we are very close. It's exciting for our group, I can tell you that. And we will be ready to talk about it in more depth after that is out there, and I can talk to Alex and others about setting up a time to really dig into it more significantly with this group or others in the coming months. Yeah, so be on the lookout for that. If you have questions, meanwhile, let me know. We will have a public hearing for that as well, by the way, but that's not yet set. It'll probably be sometime, well, if all things going right, I will probably try to set that sometime in mid to late May. It has to be at least 15 days after you file. So sometime, late May probably would be the target for a public hearing, and I'll make sure you all are aware of that. Yeah, anyways, more questions you can always send my way, but I'll let you get back to your normal business.
Great, thanks, Kris. So that's big news for our organization, big news for our committee. So we'll keep an eye out for that and likely talk about it at our next meeting in May. And we may have special meetings that we schedule throughout the summer in response to a schedule update, talk about it at our conference, stuff like that. So again, appreciate the heads up, and yeah, look forward to kind of rolling with those changes. Okay, and with that, let's shift over to our tours. So again, what we're doing today is talking about electronic records management systems. Those are things like ORMS is an example of a management system, Laserfiche, another example. This is a place for cities to digitally store their records. So there could be a mix of folks on this call. There could be people who do not have a system in place and are interested to learn more about the options out there. You may be a person that has one of these systems that's already in place at your city. And so this would be a great opportunity for you to learn about how others use the system. And even so, we're a Laserfiche shop over here in Corvallis, but I'm interested to learn about ORMS, even though we don't use that, because I do think that, in terms of just records management, things can be translatable between the two systems for sure. And, it's also possible that cities may want to make a change at some point, changing from one system to the other. So I hope that this session will have something for everybody in that regard. And so the plan was for us to do the ORMS tours first, and we would have tours from Milwaukie and Sherwood. I'm still looking for our other presenter, not seeing them. So maybe we'll start with Milwaukie, and you guys can kind of kick us off and show us what you have going on, and about a 10-minute presentation. And I think what I would like to do is kind of hold questions until we get through all of the tours, and then we can kind of circle back to presenters. So I would just encourage people watching to take notes along the way and remember the name of the person presenting, like their city, the system, so you can ask specific questions kind of when once we're done with those presentations. And we do have quite a bit of time for this too. So ideally we can accommodate everyone's questions and discussion. So with that, Scott or Nicole Madigan, do you want to kick us off?
Actually, if I could throw one more pivot at us,
Yes.
Not seeing Sylvia yet, but also Nicole's covering our front desk and is actually helping someone right now. Would I be able to ask our Laserfiche colleagues to maybe go first and give Nicole a chance to get back to the desk?
Yes, for sure. Nicole Morris, would you be okay with kind of kicking us off?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
okay.
can go. It's fine.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I don't, I can kind of start from the beginning for us. So we did a 5-year records management strategic plan, and I'm sorry I missed that last meeting. There was some miscommunication for everybody, but we we worked with a consultant who helped us put together a strategic records management plan, which was a 5-year plan. And part of that included the purchase of an electronic system. And so once we kind of got through all of that plan, the last piece was the electronic system. So we then hired a separate consultant. We worked with Lisa Yo Consulting, and she came in and helped us do a evaluation of all of our records. And she evaluated all the different records management systems. And I have all of that information, and I'm happy to share it with anybody as well. But looking at what met the needs for our cities and the costs associated with that, we decided to purchase Laserfiche. And so that's how we kind of ended up where we are now. Our VAR, our value added representative for Laserfiche, is MCCI, and that's who we work with. So I'll just go ahead and share my screen and show you guys how we use it. So we use it in all of our city departments, and we rolled this out. We used this Excel sheet that I put together. And what I did is I took the city retention schedule and I added it to this document to help with document identification throughout our city. So in this document, we talked about templates and metadata. We determined where it would go in the system. So then I took this template after I gathered all this information and we popped it into Laserfiche. Here, we have 2 forms of Laserfiche at the city. We have the desktop version, which is the version here, and we have the web version, which is the version here. So this is what all of our users at the city use and have access to, so all of our staff. And then eventually this will also be our public portal as well. And so this is what it looks like when they go in to find records. I use the desktop version here, but you can see all of our departments have it set up, I guess. And it looks kind of just like the desktop version for Windows. So we have our administrative files, we have our city council records, all of our minutes, ordinances, packets, resolutions. Our building records are another big one that people are interested in, which is community development. All of our address files are stored in here alphabetically by street, and then by address, and then by document types. So that's pretty much it. We do have 2 repositories. This repository I can't share with you. This is our human resources repository. We keep the human resource documents separate from all of our city documents because they're confidential records. But in this repository, we do have confidential records as well in our legal files. But we have security around those. So I can see these as an administrator, but no one else can see them. And part of the security process was back in that spreadsheet that I talked about. It was one of those kind of interview process when we put this together. We have 2 methods for filing. So everything is filed here in the records series, the state records series, which sounds like I will be doing some updating too. Thanks, Kris, for that. If you're still on the call, awesome, fabulous, wonderful. And then copies of those are stored here in these files. So these are our user-friendly files. So these can't be altered or modified. All the documents have metadata assigned to them here, and they're graded out so they can't be modified. So all of our records management is done in the record series here, which only I have access to. So that's it. I can talk
Awesome.
more or less. I just threw a lot out there. I don't know.
No, I love that. And I, again, just encourage people to write down questions. I want to highlight a couple of things that you said just to kind of draw it out. So it sounds like you have cutoff dates applied to some of these records so that that's the distinction between active and inactive records, right? And that can translate across systems. The idea that some documents are ones that you can edit or they're like working files, but the ones you're looking in right now, these are like the locked down files, correct?
Yeah. And all
Yep.
these documents have records properties assigned to them. So you'll see here the retention schedule. So like I just randomly clicked on bargaining documents. So they're 75 years and they're based on their the date of the document. So the record series or the year here was like 1990. So it'll be 75 years after 1990. And then you can see here the disposition authority attached to each of those documents. So all of the document retention is done at the record series level.
Cool.
Mhm.
And then I'm curious to know if people just want to raise their hands, how many other people have separate repositories for different file types? So sounds like Nicole has one for HR, one for general city records. Okay. See a couple hands raising. That's something that might be helpful for those of you who don't use that. You know, it's not a requirement, but something that could be a tool for your city.
Yeah, we are gonna peel off our building records into their own repository here shortly, so that we can make those public facing, because we're ready to make those public facing, whilst we're not ready to make all of our other documents public facing.
Great. JP, do you want to jump on here and kind of piggyback on Nicole's presentation and show us another user of Laserfiche?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you all for having me. So I work with the city of Lake Oswego, and the background here is that I kind of got picked up once the decision to use Laserfiche was already determined and a lot of the structure was already set up. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so you guys see this all okay? Okay.
Yep, we can see that.
So similarly, we basically have, it's not two different repositories necessarily, but up here you can see what are just basic folders, which is like our departmental working folders. Most people only see one or two up here, right? Like the help and documentation and a general intake folder and some records management things. And then our records are all divided based on also the retention schedule, which again, I just want to give all the thanks to Kris as well. We'll have a good time here doing some updates, modifying these things. Basically, the way it works is that we have a lot of security set on basically folders, and then there's inheritance. And for internally, we used the Active Directory security to also manage a lot of the security for access for users. So there's a lot of trickle down in how a department may access its own network folders, its own set of applications, and then its own set of working documents. For example, like engineering has access to this huge area of, open case files that will also contain shortcuts and friendly folder structures to things that may move to records, or sometimes just an easy way to get to their archived records, right? Everything is assigned metadata, and there's always controlling metadata triggers that will be added to a document that will move it to records. So once it's here in records, the only person that has access are the city recorder, myself, and then the administration account, which is like a master account. But basically automation takes the job. When they add documents, there's a variety of ways that they can add metadata. Sometimes we just set up folders for them that automatically apply metadata based on certain folder structures. Other times we'll use things called business processes, wherein you can just start a particular activity, like, hey, this file is ready to be archived, so I'm going to start this business process to move it down into records where it won't be editable. And that's kind of what starts a lot of our triggers. One thing, because of the way it was set up, it was very difficult for us to use a lot of the cutoff instructions for the records management functions for Laserfiche. So instead, we basically built a process that utilizes steps of metadata. For example, permit expiration date may be a requirement. So we have a series of searches that would go through, search the repository based on its location and some metadata trigger like expiration date, and then fill out an Excel sheet that we use for all of our approvals for destruction. And then that same sheet gets thrown into another system that just tags all those documents for deletion later once it's approved. We also have some other shared working areas, right? So beyond these like department working areas, we have places where people can work on council meeting materials, right? Allows us to have a spot where we can post meeting material, links to our meeting material, right? So there's different processes. Again, sometimes we give people the ability to set things as public, which would just allow them to put a link on our website that gets people to go and see all these items without seeing all of the working stuff sometimes, which does put a lot of responsibility on the people doing those tasks. That's why there's only a few that can do it, but it allows us to have a lot less back and forth in terms of updates. When we have a file updated, it's always updated real time wherever the link is. We don't have to go back and update some kind of link, which brings me to the next part. We have our public repository, which when our people land on the page, it's just the search and some like regular browsing things, but ultimately this is kind of like what people land on with the records, right? Which isn't always very helpful. But it turns out almost no one actually comes here first. They go to our website, they'll search on the website, and they'll find some page that describes a topic, and that's how they'll get directly to a record here, right? These things are all set to public access, but you can see that we have substantially more items available, right? That gets audited yearly because, that's the requirement for our policy. Beyond that, one of the other ways that we allow a lot of documents to get into here is we utilize Laserfiche Forms, which as a tool is extremely helpful. It's an inbox with a bunch of tasks. And we do a bunch of design that ultimately allows things to go directly into a repository. For example, our franchise utility works permit, they hated the records retention part. So in order to get compliance, we just set up these tasks that manages all for them and stores it at different parts of the process, along with automatic email notifications to applicants. And it's all form-based, right? So a form will be filled out, and then ultimately those variables carry through the processes, and then we get some much better records retention compliance because they don't have to do it anymore. It's the same thing with these kind of chances up here. I design all our workflows, so we have fun things like this is a business process that just takes metadata and fills out a Word document that they use to send out. This is for our city attorney's office. We also interact with payment systems, Tyler, and to do that, we basically have a process that just retrieves different payment variables from the forms and then starts another process to push it out to another database, and that makes that all automated. As I was mentioning, that business process for meeting records, right? Eventually we have all these things where someone needs to move something to record. So it has to go through all these statuses of clearing rights and finding all the documents, moving to the correct place, putting the friendly folder structures. All of this probably looks really strange, but the nice thing about it is that you don't need programming language knowledge to be able to work through all these processes that parse different tasks and metadata. I think that was all I really had to share on terms of the design, but I'm probably forgetting
Can I
something.
piggyback a couple things that you brought up that I
Yes.
forgot about?
Yeah, absolutely, please.
So we do use the workflow automation, like John Paul said, and all of our filing is automated through filing workflows. So once a person enters the metadata, it automatically files it into the record series and automatically files it into the user-friendly folders. So typically all of our stuff requires we'll have like 3 requirements so that we can name it. So it renames the document and files it appropriately. So it's super slick in that way. We do have several integrations. So we are integrated completely with NeoGov, all the NeoGov stuff for our human resources. So all of our personnel files come in, all of our evaluations, all of your training records come through. We also use Track It. So all of our building records, they actually don't do any metadata entry. All of that information comes in from our Track It database nightly into our system and files. So building is completely automated in that way, as well as our as-built. So our GIS software is also integrated as well, and our Springbrook, our financial software as well. So a lot of this stuff the filing is happening automatically on the back end of our system every night. So people aren't even entering metadata. It's just happening manually. John Paul uses it a lot heavier than we do. We don't do a lot of the business process automation. We just do the workflow filing and have the integrations. And like he said, I am not a computer programmer. And so the business process stuff is a little bit beyond me, but the workflow filing is really intuitive and really easy to put together. So though it can feel intimidating, our VAR, MCCI, helped us in the beginning to set up those, and we have service hours that we use when we need to make those modifications, because I don't have the time. It is not a full-time job for me. That they will come in and help update those workflows and do some of those processes. For the business or for the records destruction piece, it's just a simple search functionality that pops out reports for us that then we circulate around this to the departments to do the destruction that way. So those are things that John Paul said that I thought I should add.
Yeah, and it is very true. This system is very useful in terms of just filing, not just filing, but doing a lot of the automated parts that are tasks about creating your folder structure. Building consistency is so simple when you have one spot to make the mistake, and ultimately all these changes can happen because it's one spot and it's always looking at individual parts. For these workflows, right? She's mentioning triggers. You can have a lot of triggers or a few triggers or no triggers, right? Some of these things are just done because someone right clicks and say do the thing. But oftentimes we want it to be in a particular folder. We want particular pieces of information filled out in order for it to work. This is an enterprise system, but you don't have to use it that way. I kind of just want to bring up like our human resources PAF, right? This is a lot. But this is all just sitting down with the different groups over time and building these tasks and building all these functions and deciding when something happens. But ultimately, the people on the back end love it because all they have to do is they'll get an email, or if they just check their inbox once a day, they'll have their tasks to do, and they don't have to do the tracking, and they don't also have to worry about all the emails that come with it, filing it here, and those kind of things. So it's been I think our biggest hurdle with adoption with any system, right, is going to be just getting people to change the way they do the work. And oftentimes when we're talking about going from non-compliance to compliance, a lot of folks feel like, well, this is extra work. So making systems that kind of take the work part out for them, like, well, all right, it's not going to be a whole new thing that you have to take care of. Instead, it's going to be add this one date when you're done, or put it in this one folder when you're done. And then the records part happens. Or in the case for a lot of engineering permits, instead of having people fill out this PDF and mailing it into you, let them go online, fill this out and pay. And you don't even have to worry about it, right? Just keep doing the process and reading the forms. And so that's greatly increased our compliance. That said, messes still occur. I'm sure you guys have a planning department too. They don't like to file things away often, but at least I have been able to get a structure so that when they're ready, it won't take all day. And just like we're talking about with this update with the retention series, right? We're just going to build another system that says, find everything with this record series and move it to this record series, right? We're just going to be updating metadata. It's going to take a while to build that first list and get going. But I'm not going to sit here and, manually have to rename and move 14. Well, shoot, I think we have something we can wait, but it's not really a good idea. There's over 10 million pages and over 1 million documents, and that doesn't even include the versions and all this other stuff. And so more to the point, I am a full-time records manager. I'm not the city recorder here. Thank goodness. Sorry for all of you. But I get to spend a lot of time getting these kind of things organized and working on these kind of projects. And that's why I fall under the IT department now, in fact. because of the integrations and all of those things. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. I do recommend the system. I've worked with a lot of other systems in my career, and I would say for an enterprise content management system, this is one of the easiest to accomplish the most without any specific programming knowledge or language. If you can write it down, you can figure out how to do it with the help files, is kind of my thing. And thank you for the time and the opportunity.
Thank
Alright,
you.
stop sharing.
That was great. And thanks, Nicole, for jumping in also, because I think you guys brought up something important, which is there are different levels of at which you can utilize one of these systems, right? Like you can have it be basically like an electronic filing cabinet, or you can have it be a very automated system that's doing a lot of the records management for you. And it's a spectrum, right? I did want to highlight that in JP's demonstration, he's a user of forms, of Laserfiche forms, and at least for our city, that's an add-on that you can purchase for that system. So for us, that had an added cost. We did choose to purchase it, and personally, I would recommend it. I think it's a really great tool, but that's not something that everyone necessarily has if they have Laserfiche. I just want to call that out.
Well,
One
and
thing about the
Laserfiche is, so Laserfiche is be clear that Laserfiche is a product that you purchase from a VAR, value added representative. And there are many different ones who offer many different packages of what you purchase. So for us, our package level includes forms, it includes business process automation based on the size of our city and the number of users and licensed users we have. So if you were to look at Laserfiche, you want to explore different reps for it to make sure that you're finding the service levels you need and the product level that you need. So it's important when you're looking at this type of product that you're finding the right representative for you as well.
Yeah, and a lot of the costs are based on different forms of licensing, right? We use CDI, and forms does cost extra, but instead of having someone go and drag and drop to this repository, which requires a full license, I can just build a form that is essentially the metadata, and they add the file to that form and hit submit, and it does the same thing, and there's no license cost required here, right? There's different, you have to work with your IT department too, because there's going to be different security concerns around like spam, things like that. Yeah, and definitely denial of service attacks are a real thing. And if you have a web-facing form, that's always a potential, just something to be aware of, right? Because if I have a form out there that allows anyone to go and upload a file, and some random person wants to try to do an overload, and just submitting a bajillion PDFs to overload our servers, that's a risk that has to be accounted for. It's built into forms, but it's just, they're all different parts of making sure you have like backups and everything else that kind of controls velocity into your city and stuff like that. But I will say it's been a lot of fun, but it never stops. There's always some new improvement to be done. Yeah.
Yeah, Scott, I see you with your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I have a question for our Laserfiche friends, and then I just also wanted to flag for all members. Nicole and JP mentioned that there are VARs, and you will often see them at our OAMR conferences, and they are big sponsors of our association. And I just wanted to call out the names. I think someone mentions MCCI is one. Nine Peaks is another one, right? And who's the other one? Aren't there like three we generally see? CDI, MCCI,
Encompass.
and Encompass. Okay. So I just wanted to flag that when you guys are at conference, if you're wondering who those folks are and what they're selling, it's largely that. But then if I might ask a question, maybe before we pivot to the other presentations, but forgive me, JP, I can't remember exactly if you mentioned it, but Nicole, when you were showing us your public-facing portal, it sounded like it was aimed, staff can access that. Does the public have access to that yet? Or
not yet. So because we don't have all of our records scanned yet. And so for us to, like, in Lake Oswego, I don't want to speak for Lake Oswego, but I know they put a lot of money into having people scan and enter all their documents. So them being forward facing, what they have is what they have. For us, that's not how it works here. We don't have the capacity to just scan all day long. And so we're continuing to archive. We are ready to peel off our building records now. So we're going to put them in their own repository, which will become public facing. But we believe here at the city of Tualatin that making our records public facing when only half of them are available would be really misleading to the public, because we would hate for someone to go search for a record and not have the full record because not all of the information is scanned. So right now we are operating, I'd say we're about 60% there, but we want to make sure that people have the full picture before we make it public facing.
So it's an internal threshold policy decision you made at some point to wait until you get to that point. I see.
Yeah.
I think, Alex, for a future agenda, at some point, talking about what records, regardless of systems, how people publish, make publicly available data sets, groups of records. We've had this conversation recently about what we should and should not make accessible through our GIS mapping. And we have certain groups of things that are in our system that are, at this point, they're complete data sets. It'd be relatively easy on our end to publish, but should we? So maybe that's a conversation.
Should you let the world know where all of your water lines are?
For real. And there's an obvious internal, like our staff out in the field, public works and all that would love to have that accessibility connectivity. But if we put out something like a deed, that we may have a copy of it, it may be publicly owned property, but we're not the agency of record. That's the county assessor, right? So should we be putting it? Discussion maybe for a future date, but it's just fascinating to see what people publish online. So thank you, Nicole and JP.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that's an interesting conversation. And I'd just add, as a Laserfiche user, I think I fall between Tualatin and Lake Oswego. So we don't have everything on our Laserfiche public facing site, but we do have some of our records. And so that's just to say, different approaches for different cities, kind of based on what your sort of approaches, philosophy, plans for the future, all of that kind of play into those decisions, I think.
Yeah, we were basically, our city manager wanted us to go paperless, and that's why they even picked me up, was to manage, like, we have this system and we want to go paperless and we want more public availability. So then, yeah, they hired me, and then I got to hire a small army of scanners because ultimately the cost was a little bit cheaper to hire a few people than to contract it out. And we had a lot more control over the quality. And yeah, it's blurry, but you see this row here, that's all the boxes I have, and that's about 30 boxes of paper. And when I started here, we had like, there was like 1,000 when I got here, and right before that, someone went through and accidentally, someone threw away a bunch of boxes that had rat. So we only had 1,000 boxes. So yeah, but that was a fun endeavor. But it took about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, to get it all scanned in.
Yeah, a lot of work. So I know I said questions at the end, and I think it actually, now that we're in it, kind of makes sense to ask questions of our Laserfiche folks now that they're kind of on board. So I think hand raising is probably the best way to do that. If people have any follow-up questions to what Nicole and JP presented. Yeah, Melissa, go ahead. Oops, you're muted.
Sorry. JP, you mentioned integration with forms on the website, the data going into Laserfiche. Is there, I don't know how your website is hosted, but is there ability to map that data into Laserfiche regardless of how your site is hosted?
Yeah, so basically when you have forms, you're hosting it on one of your web servers, right? So if you have a website, the application's installed there, and the VAR will do all the configuration parts to connect the two. The forms, once they're filled, once you create a form, it establishes these variables, and then you take, basically, in this little, I could show you again, but it's a process map, right? And there's a task to store, and there everything's a token, right? All the different variables are tokens. So you tell it, all right, store here, or store at folder/token/current date. and it creates entries based on what their file attachments may be, or just the form itself, or you just take the metadata from their submission and create a whole new document. But there is no, it's seamless integration, if that makes sense, right? You create the variable and you tell the variable where to store in the system.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Kat.
Hi, thanks. I have a really basic question. We're looking at overhauling our network server, the whole system, and starting over from scratch. Is this something that could conceivably replace a traditional network server and just serve as your main server? Thanks.
I can answer that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it can replace. That's largely what it did for us for the first, large set of time, because of the search features that are available in there. It's very worthwhile. But the thing to be aware of is cost, right? If you have a server and it's a Windows server, it's however much it costs for the hardware and the Windows application to establish the whole server. You're done. And then you just control security access. Laserfiche, right, has a license cost. So if you have participant users, right, who might have read access to a repository, or you utilize one of these online web portals, people can get stuff, but they can't necessarily modify stuff. So if you want like modification and all the rights that comes with a network drive, you're going to have to pay the licensing costs for those. And typically, like with RVAR, I think it's something like, I don't know, around $190 a year per user after you pay for whatever the license cost may be, which is an upfront chunk of change, and then a small maintenance fee per year beyond that. So those are kind of the issue there about it is cost, right? Compared to a network server, it's much more
So
expensive.
in Laserfiche, you could host internally. So we host internally. I don't know about you at Lake Oswego, but you can host internally your servers, which we do. We did just explore the cloud-based option, which is I think it's not as cost effective. But you can, I personally think it would be difficult to make this your only source, your only network source. I think there's other options out there like the Office 365 suites that are more affordable solutions for that. I don't know enough about the records management piece of that. I think that because of the way the documents are stored in PDF and TIFF, it wouldn't be a great working repository. That's just my opinion, but their cloud-based solution maybe, but I just don't think it'd be very cost effective.
Yeah, cloud versus the on-premises. I think it's so much easier for folks to use the on-prem and the desktop application version of Laserfiche compared to either WebLink, the portal, or the cloud versions. That said, yeah, it took a while. I think it's been better as a whole for compliance for records management. And once people got used to working with files, and then really the administration part takes a lot of time. So like if you don't have a lot of time, it's not going to work well, because you would like she was saying, opening the TIFFs versus PDFs, those are settings you can control, but you gotta make sure to do it and convince people how it's working. So when they go and share the document with a URL or something, like there's those extra challenges. It's a full-time job to administer it that way, to use it as an enterprise solution.
I wouldn't do it. That's my
Yeah.
answer. My answer would be I would not recommend.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. And then just keeping timing in mind, let's hear from Kris, and then we can transition over to ORMS.
I'll keep it real short here. I'm seconding JP and Nicole on this. And Kat, if you would like to discuss more about, kind of arrangement between different types of software and what makes sense. So we spend a lot of time thinking about this in our own agency as well, and at the state level, is using the right tools for the right job, right? And what they noted, right? These are very robust, ERMSs are very robust tools, but they're very security, and the way they're set up makes them clunkier by nature for the free-flowing work that you do early in the work process, right? Just creating notes, the inability to move things around, delete stuff that's not real, all that stuff, right? And so there's an argument there. However, there are tools that are better suited for that. Nicole mentioned M365. We use that a lot. there's possibilities there. So anyways, do reach out to my team if you have thoughts about these kind of file plans and how we're going to organize stuff. We do this a lot with agencies. So
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And that's another area that could be ripe for discussion, right? And I think that possibly surveying our members too to see what people do and ask, what do you do? And are you doing it because you want to be doing it? Or are you looking for something better? And kind of collecting that data on what other people do might be helpful. Scott and Nicole Madigan, would you all like to kind of take us on a little tour?
Absolutely. Thanks for the agenda switch, Nicole and JP. Good job on those presentations. And yeah, we're happy to show you around ORMS, our Milwaukie version of it. And I am cognizant that there are other ORMS users, and there's also our state records manager who just spoke on the call, who may have more relevant or more updated information on some of the things I will say. So I will leave myself open for corrections later. But as some of you may know, Milwaukie has been a part of the Oregon Records Management Solution, ORMS, since its inception. The legend I inherited from my predecessor who was a part of that was that it was OAMR members, several city recorders, and the state archivist at the time, who were kind of in the conversations that led to the state contracting with Chavs Consulting out of Baker City to use the product that has gone through several name changes, but it is a product that came out of Australia and has been was absorbed by HP, Hewlett Packard, and then spun off to several other subsidiaries. It's currently owned by OpenText out of Canada. It has been, I think, for most of the last half decade. So we were one of the first in the gates. And so the way we use it is kind of to continue the conversation that JP and Nicole started is we use it as an archival repository. We do not use it for active records management. Having said that, we do often, or in the work that Nicole and Madigan and I do in terms of correcting and updating city council records, we do have the ability to go in and update things. And so it has that functionality to it, of course, and it could be used. And I know of at least one city in Oregon who at one point attempted, maybe like Lakeville did with their system. One city did attempt to use it as an active archive and it did not work. So I will just triple underline what has been said. These ERMSs aren't necessarily great for replacing network drives. So we've been in it since 2011. You also see something, if you are an ORMS user, you may see that our structure in Milwaukie is a little different because we, when this was a new thing and there were still some kinks being worked out and some structure questions being figured out, we went one direction. Then the guidance since then has gone a different direction in terms of whether the record retention is placed on individual records or on folders that then put it on everything in that folder. We've stuck with keeping the retention on each document, each record that's in our system, and we've got hundreds of thousands of documents in there at this point. Each one has a classification for retention on there. So we've been around a while. Our way we've been doing it has been set for quite a while. Nicole and I are not full-time records people. This is probably past a third of the work that we do here at the city, recorder and admin professionals, other duties as assigned. Our city council takes up a lot of our time as well. So we're part-time for this, but we are very fortunate that we have a very supportive, we've had through several city managers, very supportive administration and department heads. We have 7, 8, 9 records liaisons embedded in all the departments across the city. We meet with them regularly. I cannot tell you that 100% of our departments use ORMS, it's called Content Manager. But I think that the reality of some departments using Acela or CityWorks or other things, it's just, it's the lay of the land. Some departments have their own, and some of their own are state driven as well. So I've long said one of the best things about going with ORMS is that we don't have to do any back end IT support. We don't have to update the schedule when State Archives updates the retention schedule. That's all done by Chavs Consulting and or the State Archives folks. And that's a great partnership that's been in place since then, and we've been really happy to be part of that. And we're just kind of informed when the retention schedule is updated, and And having the ability to be in meetings, in addition to records management, this meeting, this OAMR meeting, being a part of ORMS has brought us into contact with a lot of other really smart records managers from across the state. My predecessor did two great things amongst many things, but when I first joined the city, she insisted that I go to these committee meetings, and the RMC, the Records and Regulations Committee meeting. Pat insisted I go to these meetings, and then Pat also took me to our regional user group meetings for the ORMS system. Well, not just for ORMS, it's for all content manager users in Oregon, and that includes the folks from the city of Portland and Metro, Multnomah County, and then all the ORMS users. And that's between these two meetings, I've learned everything I know about records management, essentially, and it's been great. So access to the rule makers is, to me, always largely been one of the best selling points of going with ORMS. So no system's perfect. I can't tell you that ORMS is great and it's the slickest thing in the whole world, but we've always felt supported with the folks at Chavs. I think that covers everything. I was going to also say I agree. John Paul made an argument, a note at one point that you can have the best system, the best staff system in the world, and the hardest thing is always going to be getting people to use it. And we've certainly encountered that struggle too. And like I mentioned, building has a Acela, Public Works has City Works, and you're not going to necessarily convince them to replace it, but you work with them where you can and make it relevant as much as you can. So there are shared pains and there are shared benefits to any ERMS. So with that, I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to turn it over to my esteemed colleague here at the city of Milwaukie, Nicole Madigan. Who'll give us a shout.
Thank you, Scott. I'll try and be brief. I will piggyback on something that Nicole Morris had mentioned about users. So with Content Manager, we have different structures of users, and we pay differently for each type of user. So we have like read-only users. We have users who can read and put documents in, and then we have power users, which have a little bit more power to do things in the system. Typically, our records liaisons are power users because they are going to be the ones helping their departments to make sure that things are structured and changed appropriately. And then we have administrators like Scott and I. So I will give you guys a quick little tour here.
While Nicole brings that up, I did forget to mention the entire pay structure for ORMS is per seat per month. And it has been like $37 since 2011 per seat per user. You can tailor to how many users you need. I understand there may be some contract changing. It's a state agreement that we're all grandfathered under. So the only thing we pay is a monthly fee based on the number of seats we use. So I want to make that.
So we pretty much structure our records here by department. There's a couple more extra sections that are a little more dive down, but besides just department, we're actually, I think, about to start another engineering type volume for specifically, I think, for their CIP projects. We are getting ready to actually do a more in-depth review of our content manager structure and how we're using the current structure, how we're using the metadata to make sure that it is working as appropriately for everyone as possible. So we have some new things that'll be coming, some new changes that'll be coming for us. But that's been a training and on a hands-on training we've been planning for a while. So it's kind of like a library. Each department is a volume of books. You click into it. Every time it opens a new window. So there's no back button. You would just go back to the previous screen. And so we structure like all of our boards and committee folders. So we have our city council packets here. And so this is the internal side of Content Manager. It operates a lot like Excel. So you would click a column to sort it. You can drag and drop columns. I like when I'm looking for certain meeting packets, I like to sort it by meeting date. And then as you can see down here, we've got all the metadata. the stuff that Scott and I put in is usually more organized than the way that some of our other departments put it in. Scott's really great about just copying and pasting our agenda as the metadata into into the metadata section, which makes searching a lot more easier. You can search by any word, which gives you not just the title of the document, but also anything within the metadata. So I always tell people when I'm doing our records trainings, the more information that you can put in the metadata field in the notes section, the better. And then this is like the rest of the metadata section. All of this, the thing that I really enjoy about Content Manager, I'm not an Apple kind of user. I like to be able to like modify and change things. And so you can right click on either of these sections of the window, and you can completely, let's open another window. You can completely customize what's displayed, which can also be really helpful depending on the type of record searching that you're doing. If you want to sort something by its retention schedule, you want to sort something by its meeting date, by an address, all of that can be customizable, which is really cool. As Alex said, we have some of our records are public facing, some of them are not. Right now, pretty much all of our council packets are public facing, all of our ordinances, all of our resolutions, all of our, what else, Scott? What else is public facing that I'm trying to think of?
Proclamations and declarations.
Yes.
Oaths of office.
I'll show you guys that. Can
Many
you see
of our
my
committee stuff. Yeah.
Can you see our website? Can everybody see our website? Okay.
Yes.
So to view our public facing records, there's a web drawer. And so we would go to, it's right in front of me, to digital archives. We're also getting a new website, so nobody please try and judge our website too harshly. We've got a fancy new one on its way. And the way it's currently structured, someone can click one of these links and it would take them right to all of our ordinances, or all of our resolutions, so on and so forth. Or they can just click start searching, and then they can decide, just like on our internal side, how they want to search, what they want to search by. When our staff is writing reports and they are linking old council packets, they used to link it to our actual like meeting page links, which we are not having them do anymore for one reason. We're changing our website, so we don't want to have any dead links. But also, we'll always have these links for our council packets in the web drawer. And that way it also, if the public is looking through the council reports, they'll know that this is where they live as well, and that hopefully that can help cut down on public records requests by helping to show people, hey, we have this really cool feature. So, and speaking of public records requests, when a records request comes in, for us it currently comes in through our website as well. Scott and I get emailed, we track it, we finish it, and then we drag and drop it. Give me 1 second. Let me stop sharing this so I can minimize this and not show everybody whatever weird emails I have going on. Okay. I'm also our union secretary, so I'm honoring privacy. Okay. Let me share this again. Okay, so we can minimize it down to this cool little window that will always stay open, and then pull up one of our, let's see, pull up our, let me go to this. Okay, I'll just pull up our part of our G drive. So let's say I was putting in, I could select a bunch of emails all at once and then drag and drop them into our records folder, and then it starts its little process of asking you how you want to check in the record. So it's pretty easy. It's pretty user friendly. It's completely customizable. You can even like change the color of this system to make it your own. And we set people up with favorites so that it gives them like a starting place. So you can create your own special saved searches, which also works for running reports. We typically set everybody up with all folders, all volumes, all ordinances, all contracts. And then you can also set them up with favorite actual like records or folders, which again, instead of just everybody searching for the same thing over and over in their search field up here, they can actually just go like, oh, I need to go to contracts, and then jump into contracts. So did I miss anything? Sorry, as Scott said, we were many hats and I was covering the front desk for lunch. So I caught some of the Laserfiche training, but I missed some of it. So.
No, I think that's great, Nicole. Besides the city recorder's office, our biggest users of our system is our finance department, kept keeping track of all of our departments, our city's contracts, and having those basic documents in there has really helped us be able to respond to internal and external public records requests very quickly. I've done a number of historical deep dives on when a parking lot was paved at Old City Hall, and just trying to figure out things, and knowing that our collections are fairly complete and in one electronic system has been super helpful. So that's probably a lot that I know we're probably way over your schedule, Alex. So yes, for parking lot days. Happy to answer any questions.
No, I think that was great. And I actually just wanted to chime in and say I see some folks from Sherwood here, and I don't know if they wanted to piggyback on the ORMS demonstration and if they wanted to show us around as well. And if they would like to, they can. Oh,
yeah. Can you hear us, Alex?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Hi, thank you. Sylvia, you guys know me. This is Katie Keller-Corrigan, and this is John Thornton here at the city. So we're not going to repeat a lot of what Milwaukie said, because we are right there with Milwaukie. When we looked at our system, implementing a system, we actually put together a group of individuals from our various departments, kind of that record liaison person for those departments. We toured Milwaukie, we toured Oregon City, looked at how they implemented their system. So we had a previous system that we learned a lot of lessons from, which was a system that the city implemented, and it was a free-for-all. Everyone worked in it, everyone put everything in it, and we're going on 6+ years and we're still cleaning out that system. So lessons learned. If you're going to move forward with the record system, have a plan, have a vision, and just move slowly and accurately as much as you can. We have grown our system over the ORMS system over the last 6 years. We started with the city recorder's department as the guinea pig, if you will. When I took the position as a city recorder, all of the council records, legislation, meeting minutes, every meeting records were all in PDF format. So we didn't have to go in and scan. I inherited electronic records. What we did do is compare the paper to the electronic, make sure they matched, make sure nothing was missing, make sure that our PDFs were full text search, and then we moved all those documents into Content Manager. And then likewise, we use the web drawer feature, push all that information out to the public. So all of our council meeting records, legislation, all of our boards and commissions, because those are very similar type records, also permanent records, are also part of that migration of those records that went into the system. The next thing that we looked at was what is another department, the type of record they had, and the retention rules. So kind of one of the hard rules that we're looking at is using the system as a repository only. We looked at any records that had a 3 or more year retention. That's what goes into the system. If you have records that have less than 3 years, basically don't bother unless your records are clean, PDF'd, ready to go in. But by the time you do all that work, they're going to retain out. So if you have records, again, that was one of the rules that we used, anything 3 or more. So our next department that we looked at was our municipal court department. everyone processing the same type of record. They have citations, 5-year retention. You have a department of 4 or 5. Everyone's performing the same function. So we licensed those individuals. We got them desktop scanners. Our desktop scanners were about $1,000 a scanner. Everyone in that department, that's all they do is process citations. They still do have some paper, those do that citation process. If it needs a DMV or something else, they do have a file cabinet with paper, but for the most part, everything is scanned, put into the system. Everyone has access to that. The other nice thing with ORMS is those departments only have access to their records. They're not seeing a whole folder structure. They're not seeing everybody else's. They only see theirs. Similar to Milwaukie, we have favorites. They know where to go. They know the structure is very, very similar to Milwaukee's. The other area that we're working on, that we started working on and we had a little bit of a stall due to staffing and resources, was our human resources. So if you look at human resource type records, personnel records, minimum retention 6 years on a personnel file, depending on other things that might be in a personnel file. Those documents have the 3 or more year plus retention. They need to be secured. They only have human resources really accessing those. We did build a folder structure for all of the employees, and then HR at the time put whatever folders they wanted under each employee's name. And unfortunately, I can't show you right now because this system doesn't have Content Manager loaded in this conference room, so I apologize for that. But anybody interested, I can kind of show you what that folder structure looks like for human resources. So again, we had to change in personnel. We had some resource shortages. So that folder's there. We're just waiting for people to start putting their records into it. The other area, other department here at the city that is a huge user, a big user, is our building department, all of our permits. So they have a process, they have a system with the new Acela system that came in at the state level. We're now looking at how that looks and works with ORMS. Are we kind of duplicating? Do records now live over in this new system? What does that ORMS look like for us? We're still looking at that. We're not sure. But like I said, the wonderful thing with our process and implementation is we had some trailblazers, and thank you, Milwaukie. You guys were one of the trailblazers, and we followed right behind you. So, any questions?
Thanks for piggybacking on that. That was great. And just so you know, I'm going to, with your permission, share your contact information with our members. So if people have questions, they can follow up with you directly to get more information on your folder structure and ask any additional questions.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, opening it up to the larger group, do folks have questions about ORMS or about ERMS generally that you feel our presenters could answer for you? Okay. All right. Well, with that, I think we can maybe bring this conversation today to an end. As I mentioned, I am going to send a follow-up to the group, and what I'm thinking is contact information of the presenters, information about where you can purchase these products if you would like that. Also some more resources for training and for people who already use it or people who want to kind of explore a little bit more. So and we're also recording this session too. So I'll send those out after the meeting because I think hopefully this is just sort of the start of something for our members, for people who want to learn more, explore more about this topic. And with that, I just want to say a really big thank you to all of our presenters. This was something I know a lot of people were looking forward to. I know I was. We have a lot of expertise in our organization, so it's great to have our members share with each other. Looks like drop zone is a hot topic in here, so I'm going to make a note of that for the follow-up. So, and then two other just kind of housekeeping things. I shared a message and I'll reply to it right now so people can find it. If you're a member of RRC and you would like to receive credit for attending this meeting today, go ahead and fill out this form that I just posted in the chat so I can make sure I mark you as here. And then for people who missed the beginning of the meeting, there's some chatter about this in the chat. Yes, it looks like we will have a revised city retention schedule coming to us soon. So stay tuned on this. And I think that we will share an update with other members of OAMR and be on the lookout for that rulemaking. That sounds like it's coming in May. I did save a little bit of time for legislative stuff and our fall conference, but this is a packet day for me and I am due back. So I have to go and my co-chair is not here. So I am probably going to end the meeting here now. I think that talking about our fall conference topic is things are shifting now with the retention schedule. I think that our committee identified as a really high priority item for our membership. So I think maybe it actually makes sense to talk about that at the next meeting when we have a little bit more information about the retention schedule. And I know that Secretary of State will also be visiting at our fall conference. So kind of coordinating, making sure we cover that in a way that's adequate for our members without too much overlapping information. And again, wanted to thank Kris Stenson for joining us today. It's great to have our partners here at these meetings, and thank you for folks who joined us who are not a part of our committee. And I hope to see you all soon. All right, bye.